People don't realize that they say we have a credit card amount of plastic in our brain.
Well, an entire spoon of microplastics that's actually lodged in the brain. 5 grams, a credit card size that we're inhaling every single week.
There is a solution to these problems. The main solution is don't put them in the first place.
They didn't do a diagnostic, and they misdiagnosed me with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And at the end of the game, I was on 50 drugs and I gained 100 pounds.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Hello, Brain Tap Nation. This is Dr. Patrick Porter. I'm your host here for this episode of the Brain Fitness Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, a fellow brain tapper, and Dr. Reverend, or you call yourself Reverend Doctor, I'm not sure. You got this. Jodi has been out there in the field actually doing the work, as they say, and then she put together a book. We're going to talk a little bit about this, but the main thing is how do you take the knowledge and apply it in the world? And she has a big mission on her hands. She's going to apply it in the workplace. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, what she's finding is helping and what's hurting. And she wants to engage with you, Brain Tap Nation. So if you're out there, one of our doctors, one of our 3,000 clinics, and you have a neurocheck and you want to get out there and help the community, we're going to be talking about how you can do that. And Dr. Jodi is out there doing her thing. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Jodi, and what's happening.
So it's so funny. Everyone always calls me Dr. Jodi, and I am an ordained minister, and I have enough credentials to be a doctor, but I chose not to be because the other kind of doctors were not my gig. You are, right? So, but that's okay. And, affectionately I've been called Dr. Seuss, as in,
Okay. So Reverend Jodi, I've always thought you were a doctor too. Every time I see you, you always talk like a doctor, you walk like a doctor. I mean, what's the saying? If you walk like a duck, quack like a duck, you're a duck. So when we think about, I always say that the MDs actually stole the doctorate from the PhDs. They have their MD, but they stole the doctor. The doctors are a doctorate, so like you said, you have enough knowledge and reach to probably get a doctorate. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, what your mission is. Yeah.
I actually chose, Patrick, not to become a doctor. And the reason I chose not to become a doctor, because at the time, and I probably will become a doctor now, because you actually reframed my thought about what doctors really are, right? Integrious. And so I'll share my story, why I'm doing what I do. So I was a bodybuilder, benching 185, right? And I was a gymnast, and I looked really good, and I had 6-pack abs, and you can see all that in the book, Emotional Healing, Toxic-Free Living. And I looked good, but I was actually really sick inside. Yeah, thank you. And so I was having emotional dysregulation issues, even as a child, and one of the things that I talk about in the book is that as a child, and there's a short reel on that was created by the Alliance of Natural Health in the United Kingdom. So I was cleaning out the stall for my horse, and he dug a hole in the front door. My cowboy boot got stuck in the hole, and I went face down and hit the front of my brain, right? And I also hit, because what hits the front is going to hit the back, right? Mm-hmm. And so my occipital lobe was damaged, and I couldn't read or write in the 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. And I have a letter from my teacher to my parents telling me this. And nobody thought to do any testing. There was no diagnostics done, which makes what you do through Brain Tap so important, right? And then in the 6th grade, I also could not speak correctly. And so I had to go through speech therapy for years so that I could speak with diction and so that people could actually understand what I was saying, right? Mm-hmm. So, however, because of, so I was born in the 60s, and in the, and you know that in the 90s, under the radar, all the food and our water was being poisoned. We had genetically modified foods being slipped into our food supply. Most people didn't know about it. I certainly didn't. And I started having emotional dysregulation issues. When I was in corporate America launching the debit card program for the United States and internationally, I fell down at work and I had 2 torn rotator cuffs. And again, no surprise, there were no diagnostics done. And for 20 years, I couldn't even brush my hair. I couldn't blow dry my hair, carry my suitcase through the airport. As I was launching this debit card program and traveling, I could barely carry anything because my body wasn't functioning. And what they said was that the pain I had was all in my head, which we will talk about thoughts. I mean, your group knows our thoughts become things, but they said I didn't have, they didn't do a diagnostic and they misdiagnosed me with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And at the end of the game, I was on 50 drugs, right? And, in, and I gained 100 pounds, right? And I went that way. And then after 20 years, I went on disability after both parents died, 18 months apart. And that was when the real healing started. I spiritually awoke. I understood what was happening for my ascension. I learned about real foods. I learned about the power of vibration, binaural beats. I learned about the power of auricular therapy, right? And acupuncture and chiropractic and all these wonderful good things, and reverse the 54 chronic conditions that were created from being on the 50 drugs. And of course, a poor diet, right? So here we are today. That was I went on disability in 2013, went back to work in 2017, and I noticed all these things happening in the workplace that were causing a dysfunction for people. And I mean, it's things like ear fresheners, right? Which is, is a neurotoxin, right? And so how are people supposed to be their best self when they don't have an environment that is conducive to healthy living? And so that became my mission, or part of my mission anyway, to bring back all my learning to corporate America and to bring all the amazing health practitioners, yourself included, right? Like number one, with me, because things need to change. People need real health. And so the corporate wellness program that I created years ago, actually, I was teaching this program since 2019, and then recently, brought it so that everybody could do it, right? So it has an online presence. And as people learn this program, go through it, they will learn about all the different things that are like the hidden toxins, the electromagnetic frequencies. They'll learn about the truth about their food and water supply. And while the word is out there, there's a lot of people that are so ingrained in what they do. They're so committed to their work. They're not taking even a moment to understand how their work is impacting them, and then how this unfriendly environment is impacting their relationships, right? And that brings us here to Brain Tap, because part of, yes, the program is online, but that's only part one. The other part is to create wellness rooms for every organization so that employees are encouraged to take 20 minutes to, decompress and work on brain fitness. There is nothing more important than your brain. And quite frankly, that I started using, a decade ago, before I met you, a different device with binaural beats, and it doesn't hold a candle to what you've created, not even close. And people get confused by other devices. But what you've done is you've taken the Brain Tap, right? And with the app, made it so simple and easy for people to understand that it's a no-brainer, pun intended, right? And so I'm looking for other health practitioners that are actually using the neural check, because we need to have practitioners in every single state that can go in and work with these, because I'm only one person, right? I'm not going to be running from state to state, that can go in and help these employees understand the advancement they're making with their brain.
Right.
Isn't that
So
lovely?
we're gonna have your contact information below. So if you're a BrainTap user or you own the NeuroCheck and you want to reach out to Reverend Jodi, we're gonna have her information below that you can reach out to her, because this is gonna be a team effort. So one of the things, we did a study with Julia Arn, a peak performance study with Google and Microsoft, and we showed if they could just do one session at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we just picked 2 o'clock because that's the time when your temperature drops 2 degrees. So you have a biological low then. Most people run for coffee, tea, or chocolate. We want them to run for their brain, recharge their brain. We showed that the average worker that used the brain tap got 26% more work done that day, which means if you do that over a 5-day period, you now have a day and a quarter more worth of work, and you took a 20-minute break. So what are you finding is happening when you're going into these locations, these business locations? How are you finding they're receptive to what we call brain breaks rather than coffee breaks to retrain the brain?
So it was wonderful. So I was at one of the Teamsters unions here in Georgia, and we started allowing them to try the brain tap, and it was without fail that each person went into complete bliss mode. It was amazing. And as an intuitive, I have the science and I also have the spirituality, and my goal is to pair science, nature, and spirituality together, because really when we bring these together, that's the sweet spot, right? And so these people were just really in bliss, and most of these people don't even know what peace feels like. And so we're here to show them this is what peace can look like, and this is what you can have more energy. Going back to what you were saying with Juilliard, and that 26% more, they got 26% more work done. That is not a surprise on any level, right? And what you may not realize, because everyone, doesn't remember everything about my story, but in addition to having a TBI, I also had toxic brain. And so using your device and the technology in your device, I'm able to rewire, right, my brain. And we should all have neuroplasticity on the go, right? And so we need to have one of these, everyone should have a brain tap in their home. And one of the things that I'm doing now with my clients, I wasn't seeing clients for a little bit because I was so busy writing the book and bringing all this together. But before a client comes to see me, they are required, for their highest good, to download your app. And then I find a session on the app that I feel relates best for them. And I ask them to listen to it at least 3 times before they come to my clinic. And so that they have time to process the goodness, because, people get cognitive dissonance, right?
Yes.
Like, oh no, it can't be real. It's Memorex, right?
Right. There you go. What are you finding in the workplace? Like, because a lot of workers, they don't realize that the real profit is in enhancing the people that are in your business. There's a multiplier there. You're doing it to help the whoever is on staff, but the reality is that when they're a better worker and they're feeling better, their energy's higher, that company is going to do better. How do you explain that to them? Because it really is an energy equation. I mean, if people don't like their job and they're running around, being negative Nellies, I mean, the business is going to suffer. It's going to feel that energy. When you keep the energy up, like you said, they're in this bliss state. They're relaxed. They can offload some of the. I mean, work is stress. And stress drives that neuroplasticity you're talking about. But we need energy to do that. So tell me a little bit about the conversations you're having in the workplace.
So great question. So, well, how I've always explained this is that most of us are trained that so first of all, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers, right? And so that's the key thing that they need to understand. Number two, if somebody has a poor interaction with somebody else on the team, typically what that person does is they turn around and they give that poor reaction to the next person that they interact with. Well, God forbid that should be your customer, right? Because now that person is not giving the customer service that you want to portray in, in the community. And I see it over and over and over again. So the question is what kind of energy, what kind of dynamic do you want to have? So if we can get people to pause before, even when they're having a bad moment, to pause before they share what's on their mind and choose to share with ease, grace, forgiveness, compassion. Now you're creating a whole new culture, and you are going to you're going to grow your business, because people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And if people don't like your customer service person, they don't like your salesperson, they're not going to show up. So you will see increased sales. There's no question. And then I always talk about the fact that, the whole model that I offer that includes Brain Tap will reduce their out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs, right? I mean, we can just talk about anxiety and stress alone. And, first of all, I offer a multitude of drug-free alternatives that can be paired with the Brain Tap, right? It's not an either or, it's a yes and. Does that answer your question?
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. So when your book talks about emotional healing and toxic free living, I think in the workplace we have some toxic environments is what you're talking about. And if you can clean up those toxic environments, so can you give me some examples of what might be a toxic environment and how the system that you're training them in would improve that?
Yeah, so great question. So, my very first thing is the hidden toxins, the electromagnetic frequencies, and so there's ways to neutralize the frequencies if for work at home or work at the corporation, and so we have solutions to neutralize that. In addition, it's so and it goes back to personalities, because that EMF will cause agitation, anxiety, and then poor relationships again. And people don't even realize that it's happening to them. The second thing is their water supply. So if they're drinking water, and, our friend Dr. Paul Baratero from Echo Water, right?
Mhm.
So, he had explained to me that the way that they make this, so a lot of people are drinking bottled water, and they think that that is a safe way to go. But as Dr. Paul explained to me, they're actually blowing up the bottle in the plant, in the manufacturing plant, and there's no time for it to gas off, and then the water goes straight into the bottle. So you can have anywhere at a minimum of 25 different contaminants, up to, as Dr. Paul says, 250,000 contaminants. And so, my goal is to have every home have a water filter, right, of some sort, and hydrogen water for that leaky gut. So they don't even know what they don't know. There's these hidden toxins in the air supply. So again, we mentioned the air fresheners. You go into a retail store, right? And they think they're doing the right thing, and they've got those plug-in air fresheners. People take that out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
One of the things that I want to mention to people with that water, a lot of people don't realize that they say we have a credit card amount of plastic in our brain.
five
And it's
grams
coming
every,
from the drinking
yeah,
water and all that. And this is a product that if you're online, this is from OHS. Doug Grant
Kenzyme.
produced it. Yeah, it actually will break down that plastic and get it out of your body. So there are solutions to these problems. I just wanted people to know there is a solution to these problems. The main solution is don't put them in the first place. If we can stop the toxic load, and then we can start cleaning it out. And so one solution is water, and then what do we know about air? Because, like in our offices, I have air purifiers everywhere, because inside air, they say, is 200 times worse than outside air. So
Yes,
what
I
happens in a
illegally
work
use.
environment where you're talking about the sprays, the chemicals, people don't realize how those chemicals are affecting their immune system and down regulating things. So tell us a little bit about how you would teach or coach a company to get cleaner air and water.
So the cleaner air, we have a couple solutions. Actually, I don't have a specific brand. I'm still figuring out who I use. HIPAA filters right now, but I want to go back, if you don't mind, to Optimal Health
Sure.
Systems, because I use Kenzyme and I promote Kenzyme. And you're right, it's 5 grams, a credit card size that we're inhaling every single week, and it's actually a spoonful of, not a spoonful, an entire spoon of microplastics that's actually lodged in the brain, right? And so if you're having symptoms of brain fog, you want to reach out and I will get you Kenzyme, right? Like that's a non-issue. That's super easy. And then as far as, I would put in HIPAA filters. Actually, if you have a company that you're working with that you like, I actually don't have one just yet on the air. Right now, I open up all the windows, but even that's not good because of the chemtrails. So, I mean, I actually diffuse essential oils in the workplace to neutralize, especially lemon will neutralize a lot of those chemicals, lemon essential oil.
I know we use one that we use is the Air Doctor. There's a couple different podcasts I did with some air filters. I think there's a lot of good ones out there, but I know that like Air Doctor, if they put Brain Tap in there, they'll get a discount. Because what we've done is they usually will pay a referral fee or whatever, and I said no, just give them the discount. So when you go there, you get the discount on that air filter, and I'm a big believer in filtering air. I mean, in
Me
my
too.
office, I have one of the Air Doctor ones, and when for some reason every once in a while it just kicks on, and so I called the company. I said, "There's something going on with this air filter." They said, "No, there's something in your air that it's detecting." So it goes into this overdrive mode, and if I'm on the phone, I have to go over and turn it off. And I know there's some bad stuff there. And then when I'm off the phone, I got to turn it back on and clean whatever's in the air. And it's coming from the vents apparently that maybe need to be cleaned out that you wouldn't think are there. So there's some hidden dangers in our
Well,
air.
oh, yes, absolutely. So actually there's 3 things, Dr. Porter. So one is the ear ducts need to be cleaned, I think, at least twice a year. Okay. That's number one. Number two, those toxins are gassing off, especially from organizations that are putting in new carpet or new fake wood floors. So it's filled with formaldehyde and it's gassing off. And I bet you your ear doctor is picking up on that, possibly. Um, so those are 3 things and then the paint, like if you're, depending on what kind of paint you have on your walls. So, I mean,
Yeah, they just painted my walls before this started happening, so maybe it's the new paint that's doing it. I asked them to get the good paint without the lead in it. Hopefully they did that, So, but
yeah, I've
we
used the water-based paint is what I used. So, and it worked really, really well. That's how I painted my clinic, my healing clinic. So, but I think that, if and, please connect me with the ear doctor, whoever that
yeah.
person is. And as we go to corporations together and help them self-heal, we will, let's bring in the ear doctor. If you think they're the best, let's do it. Like I'm all in.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your vision of how you're going to march this across the U.S. and then maybe the world, because we're not the only country experiencing this, right? I mean, some other countries don't even have some of the requirements we have. They're even worse work environments than what we have. So
So
tell me a little bit about just give me the global vision of what if we could wave a magic wand and Reverend Jodi's plan is implemented, what would be happening?
there are 3 things that I like to see, right? For every human. Number one is your water supply, because your cells are 90% water, right? And so if you have toxic water in your cells, now you're going to have toxic relationships. That's just how that works, in my opinion. Um, and then secondly is neutralizing the electromagnetic frequencies in the areas that we have them. And I want to go back to the water just for the moment. So There are some places, and let's say if it's not a corporation, because there's going to be a lot of money that we're going to be making, and I really don't need all that money. I'll just tell you right now, Dr. Patrick. So that money is going to be donated to these other countries to get them clean water, and to places here in the United States where people don't have access to clean water. My goal is to rise up the community. Um, you may not know this, but I know that you are a product. I know that you do it. Um, when I was sick, when I was disabled, uh, there were so many holistic health practitioners that gifted me. I can't even count that high. And so I would not be here today if it wasn't for all of them. And so I'm here to give back and to make sure that those people who can afford it buy it, and the people who cannot afford it are gifted it. And so to provide a safe place for all these places. And I do have relationships with people in other countries who are all bought in to do this. Dr. Rob Verkerk from the United Kingdom, who fights for our rights for natural health, not only in the United States, but in Europe and the UK. He is with the Alliance of Natural Health. And so I've already actually reached out to him, and he will be a conduit to help get us where we need to go and to help serve the community. He's been doing that for 35 years. Mm-hmm. So it's clean water, it's neutralizing the EMF, and then giving them an opportunity to reframe their thoughts, right? Because you and I both know intimately that our thoughts become things. And so it's so incredibly powerful to me how the brain tap can shift the energy for people. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I actually run the brain tap uh, not the headset, because it's a little big for this little soul, but I have two birds, right? And so I run the app for them because they're high level sentient beings, and they understand it at a soul level. And so you can see the physiology, you can see the change in the physiology for people and for pets. And it's an amazing. Have you ever tested it on pets?
We have tested it on pets, and we're with dogs and horses. We can actually do EEG. So we've seen a
Mm,
down regulation. Now we see what happens. Most people will tell us if they have a dog or a cat, they actually, when they're doing their sessions, they like to sit on their lap, come by them. They'll lay down. They'll get into the field. Now what we see more is like when we use a grounding mat, and then we play the music, the cat or the dog or the horse even, and they also like PMF. I
yes.
wish it was easier to get the EEG on the dogs, because we did a whole study on with PTSD with the guys that have the dogs, the bomb dogs. And one thing
Oh,
I didn't
right.
know before I did the study is those dogs only live like 3 years, because they actually train them on real live ammo. So they get toxic, and then
And
that's hard on the trainer, because and what we found was when the trainers would go into a state of relaxation with the EG, the dogs would go into a state of parasympathetic. And when the
right.
dogs were going into the state of parasympathetic, their masters were feeling that. So there was a connection there beyond a conscious
Mhm.
connection. And it was almost frightening when we saw it, because we were doing the neurocheck actually can do throughput, which means it doesn't have to just do a 3 minute isolation. We can hook it up and we can do an hour long and see the fluctuations in the HRV. So for studies, that works really well. And we did that with music too, but this was with a dog and cat study.
So, I've been since 2019 pairing, solfeggio frequencies, binaural beats with PEMF, with light. And then I met you, right? And I'm like, boom chakalaka. And so I've been using PEMF, for a very long time in conjunction. I also pair it with essential oils because, there's 350 to 400 odor receptors, as you know, in the nose, and it's the most underutilized methodology to calm the brain. Going back to the dogs, so I have a client, and she came to me because of her dog. And I said, well, I can work on your dog, but the dog is a reflection of you. Like, I need to work on you. So, so we're working on them together, right? And so, and we're using the brain tap, right? So that's, people, I don't think that I think your community, and I know that my community understands completely, that how connected people are to their pets and how the pets are a reflection of what's going on for their human. Um, but I think there's a lot of people that have an opportunity to learn that, right? To understand that connection and that energy exchange. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I mean, there is a definite connection. And with children, with your own family, it's even stronger. I mean, Clive Baxter proved that with using it with lie detectors. That I mean,
oh yeah, yeah.
he showed it with people and with plants, and we're connected in more ways than we know. So when one person's suffering and in pain, it's actually harming more than just that one person.
Well,
So
that's exactly it. And that's so let's go back to I want to talk about two things. One, I want to talk about what's also happening in the corporations, how it's affecting. So if somebody's having a bad day and they're at their computer, right? And they don't have a way to heal or express how they feel or have another way to reframe it, like using the brain tap or using oils or using PEMF as a way to help them process their emotions, that will filter through the company. Like you're saying, I mean, we are all connected. Um, so there's one other thing that I didn't share with you, and it's new. You know me, I've got something in my back pocket all the time. So I am now offering, and this goes in conjunction with the neural check. This is not this is a yes and to the neural check. So it's a test, and I've been studying it for the last 2 years. And it's a biofeedback hair and saliva analysis. And we will test 13,600 conditions. All right. And then, which is great. And you get the top 3 concerns. And probably there's a lot of variations of that test. Here's the game changer. We will tell you the emotions that are driving your dysfunction. So now we know which emotions are driving the dysfunction, and we can even help people choose what to listen to on your Brain Tap app, and like that.
one thing for the listeners, we did find Terry Rightway. You probably heard him speak at one of our conferences before. He has water and air, but he also has a mold kit. If you're living in a house that's toxic with mold, he has a kit that he's helped me with 3 of my family members that were having they were just mystery diseases. They couldn't get fixed. The doctor couldn't find a pill that would fix their ill. But then we had sent out this kit, and you set it up around your house, and it can tell you if you have mold, because you're talking about the sniffer. What happens is at first you might get flu-like symptoms, but if you don't deal with it, the brain says that this must not be a problem. So I'm going to stop giving you the sniffles. I'm going to stop making you like, that's a direct response. If you're getting like flu-like symptoms in an environment, there's some toxins there that you need to root out in exchange, or do something different. And what he found out was in 2 of the houses, they were renting, and they vented the dryers into the attic without going outside. So all that moist air was going into the attic, and it made black mold, and it was just infested up there. When they finally went up there, it was like, oh my God, above them was this sea of toxins. So you don't know what's happening in your home, and it could be your work life too. These are things that, especially if you live in like an area like I live in New Bern, North Carolina. I mean, in Arizona, you might be able to get away with it because it's so dry, like Las Vegas or something. But if you're in an area that is a lot of humidity, you should get your home checked, especially if you're having some flu-like symptoms,
So I
things like that.
use Immunolytics for that.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's the same company that you use out of New Mexico. It's very inexpensive. You put the kit inside each room.
Yeah, you
I had
should
been exposed
get us that. We'll
multiple.
put it in the show notes for people. So that'd be good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's very inexpensive to do. Then here's the kicker on that. So there's a company called Pure Maintenance, and they are based in Utah. And they have a technology that they can go in. You don't have to throw out all of your stuff, right? Because, Dr. Patrick, typically people will have to throw out their clothes or whatever. What they do is they fog the entire place. They used to use this fogging system in emergency rooms, and it will go right through it'll go through everything. So you open up the drawers, you open up the cabinets, it gets into the walls and it fogs it. And when you go back and test it, there's no more mold, and they can do it in a couple of hours.
That's
It's
great. I'd
amazing.
love to have that.
I've
I'd love
used
to have
it.
that. And let's get into the show notes. I just got a message from Fox News. They're asking me to get on here. I got to
Okay,
do an
well, let me
interview.
just say one other thing about
Sure.
that. It is really very dangerous if you're exposed to mold. I had it several times. And when you're in a hotel, they also have those air conditioning units, and they weren't cleaning them at all. And so, if you are symptomatic, I absolutely have all the solutions, not only to test for the mold, to clean up the mold in the house, and then to clean up your body and your brain.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
love to have, let's get those links so people
I will
can
get you those
put them in the
links.
show notes, get
Mhm.
them to me. I'd love to know if there was something I could do, like in the hotel room when I get there, to fog it and then go back in the room a couple hours later. Because sometimes I bring an air purifier with me sometimes when if I know it's going to be an older hotel, because like Vegas is really bad for it,
Oh,
because
huge.
they keep, and I can feel it in some places, and I've been there before. And if I feel bad, I'll bring a little, the smallest air purifier I have, but sometimes it's not convenient to do that. So, but I would
So
like to
here's my
know about those.
solution on that. My solution on that, I take a bottle of On Guard. It's by doTERRA, or you can also use, I guess, these from Young Living. But basically, it's got clove in it, which kills off 99.99% of like fungi, bacteria, parasites, things like that. And so I, without fail, always bring a bottle, and I actually sprinkle that bottle undiluted into every single air conditioning unit
Oh, that's
without
great. And
fail.
I have doTERRA. I'm a doTERRA person because I like the oils. So yeah,
Me
send
too.
us your link for doTERRA. We'll put it in the show notes too, because that's an easy solution. Those come in little bottles. You can carry them in your to-go bag, and they won't get stopped by TSA. so,
Yeah,
so
and
that
the
that's
other
a
thing
good
you
solution.
can use is Dr. Paul Baratero's $99 sprayer for it gets hypochlorous acid. And so you spray the so that'll kill it off too. So I have a multitude of ways that you can do that. Um, and then there was one other
Anything you want to
thing.
add to the show notes for the listeners so we have solutions for them? Because we all live in a toxic environment, and the more we can clean it up, and people don't know what good health feels like anymore. They're just feeling so bad all the time. But what if I forgot to ask you that you want to go over in the next couple of minutes here?
So the most important thing is, if you have clients, if you are, for individuals, for the Brain Tap Nation, for corporate wellness, you want to get my functional food program, which is a lifestyle program. In that program, I have every single one of those solutions that we've just been talking about here. And the thing is, right now, it's only $111 for the year, but it connects you. It connects you to Brain Tap. It connects you to solutions on how to neutralize your environments. It has all that information that we spoke about here in detail. It also has a list of every single type of emotion that you can have, and the essential oil that will help you neutralize it in a nanosecond, right? I have all of that in the functional food program, and it's only, like I said, 111 for the year, or $12.12 a month. And so, this is a no-brainer, pun intended, a no-brainer for people to get the solutions that they need. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about 40 cents a day for people to do this. I mean, it really is a no-brainer, and you're giving us a lot of value in finding out, because a lot of people have to go trial and error, and just because somebody has something in the market doesn't mean it works. You've already tested it, you know it works. People are getting results with it. So, Reverend Jodi, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge. We're going to have you back, of course. We'll do more, and we'll get more out there. We're going to get this out to the world. Now, those of you listening up to this point, you know we're out to better a billion brains, so it's your brain we're talking to. So if this lit a fire in your brain and you said, wow, I didn't even realize those things were happening, then I want you to like and share this. She's sharing my new book, just came out. Yeah, Brain Fitness Blueprint, for those that haven't heard about it. We just launched. We had a launch party last night. It's on Audible, it's on Kindle, it's everywhere. It's got a lot of my newest information from the last few years from my last book, which I wrote back in 2010. So it's been a while since I wrote a book. So it's got some new information in there. So
Well,
please
you are a
check.
contributing author to my book.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, you want to get Emotional Healing, Toxic Free Living. This is a great book. You can get it on Amazon or on your website, I'm sure, wherever
Yes.
the books are sold. So let's get out there. Let's change the world. And it's not just about what we're thinking. That's really important, but it's what are you sitting in? What are you breathing in? What are you drinking in? All these things play a role in how your brain functions. So remember, we're out to better a billion brains. It's your brain we're talking about. So please like and share this podcast. Let's get it out to the world. Let's help Reverend Jodi with her mission to detoxify the world and give us a great place to not only raise ourselves, but our family, our friends, our coworkers, and make a great place for all of us. So again, Reverend Jodi, thank you for being a guest on the Brain Fitness Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better a billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.